What's up guys, Gary here for GMVFX again. Welcome to another little tutorial. This is the second part of our animation with particle tutorial. The first part seemed to be okay. But this time we're going to be talking about something called keyed animation. And basically keyed animation looks like particles flying from one shape to another, which is because basically that is exactly what they are doing, but it's a bit more complicated, but not too complicated, which is why we're going to go over it now and very quickly. So let's go straight into this, get on with it. I'm going to get rid of the default cube, I'm going to get rid of that light, I'm going to get rid of the camera, just all for now. And what we're going to do is we're going to create three brand new objects. Let's create an icosphere, because I quite like them. And I'm just going to bring it above the ground plane, as it were, the actual ground. And I'm going to add another mesh, and let's get something a bit different. Let's get, let's pick, do you know what? Let's just do this. Let's bring in a teapot, and let's bring that up here, and let's just scale this down a little bit, just to make it a little bit smaller, because a little bit big. There we go. And then I'm going to add something in between. I'm going to add a torus in between. Yeah, let's get a mesh and let's stick in a super toroid. And I'm just going to increase the number of segments a little bit. And I'm just going to make make it a little bit broader so it looks a little bit more like a wheel. This is, by the way, is one of the extra mesh tooly things. There you go. It's really quite good. And let's bring that up to there. Okay, so we've now got a sphere, and we've got a super toroid, and we have got a teapot. It doesn't matter, by the way, that they have completely different surface topology. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a bunch of particles, and we're going to have this as their first shape, this is their second shape, and this is their third shape. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the end of this animation to 100. Let's make that just a little bit smaller, just to allow us to have some easier mathematics. It's purely because I'm being lazy. Ooh, yeah, it is. And I'm going to put all of these, well, leave them in that collection. Let's leave in that collection. Let's make a new collection in here. Let's just put it in here. And I'm going to add I'm going to add a cube. I'm going to actually basically put back in the default cube. Let's bring it over here. Pop that there. And I am going to assign that a particle. So let's go up here, and I'm going to click not on the modifier, even though it is a modifier. I can do it here, particle system. Do it the proper way, I guess. And that is to go to the particle tab and just click on the plus button there. And that creates the particle system. Now, we can't see that particle system at all. But it is there. It is definitely there. It's because it's on one, and it's creating them, and they're dropping over time. Now, we actually don't want that to happen. I want to create a number of particles. I want to appear all at the first frame, and I want to have a lifespan that's 100, so that they're visible for all the 100 frames. So let's do that. Set that frame 1 to 1. Set the number 2, let's say 5,000. Ooh, that's big. Let's make it 3,000. In fact, it could have been 5. It's actually quite quick on this machine. And set that to 100. And that's it. So if I press play now, you can see, oh, there they go. Whee! That's not what we want. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this particle system I've got here, go to the physics, set it to none. Don't want any physics. Don't want anything to happen to it. So there you go. That's it. It's basically disconnected it from the physics system, which is cool because it means that everything else is going to be so much easier. I'm just going to basically just rename this particle setting to parts none. Okay, I'm going to go here to this one here, and I'm going to add a new particle system. And because we've gone and named something parts none, I can copy parts none onto this one. So it has all the same numbers and all the same frame settings and all that sort of malarkey as the other one. And we're going to duplicate that. I'm going to call this to parts 01. Just that. And I'm going to leave it all as it is like this. You don't need to do this, but it just makes stuff sometimes it makes it a little bit easier because you've got setups you can change without affecting the others. I'm going to add another one here. I'm going to set this also to parts 1. and I'm going to set this one as well. I'm going to set this one to parts 1. So there you go. So we've got parts none, parts 1, parts 1, parts 1. I'm going to pick on this one. I'm going to click on this one again, and I'm going to call this one parts Newton. Now I'm not going to change anything in there yet, but I'm going to do it in a little while. So what we're going to do, let's go back to this. Now this one that I set to parts none, I need to change the actual physics type in this to actually be something that will allow us to go through the keyed system. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to set this to keyed. And at the moment it's still doing nothing, as you can see, and that's because at the moment it has no relations. So we pop down the relations panel here, and we're going to add in our other objects as our relations. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about loops and timing very briefly here, because I'll have to show you, but I want to do the next step to show you what that is. Basically, use timing is saying that you can use information that you put in your relations to say when your particles, how long they stay in one shape, and how long what frame they arrive at the next shape. In other words, how long. So they say I start at frame 10 here, and then the 50 frames after that they be this shape, and so on. And if you don't use these timings, when you put your objects in, they will just go 0, middle of your frame range, end of your frame range. If you've got 4 objects, it'll be it'll be start 0, 25% into your 33%, sorry, get it right, 33.33333 recurring percent of your frame range, 66.666666 recurring in your frame range, and then whatever that one is there at 100% of your frame range. So whatever your frame range is, divisible by 4, and each one of those is a stage during that. Let me show. I'm going to pick, first of all, I'm going to add a new relation in, and it says an invalid target, and that's because I haven't picked a target. I've now picked the icosphere. You'll notice immediately they have gone, and the reason they have gone is because they are now, even though you can't tell, there. That's what they are, because that's what it's done, and it's system 1. Now that's because if you have multiple particle systems on an object, you can dictate, oh no, I want it to be particle system 2. Particle system 1, that's old hat. I want number 2. Everybody wants number 2. Sorry, dad joke, very sad. Anyway, I'm going to add another one here, and I'm going to pick now our supertoroid. So now if I scrub this, you'll see it goes up, and during the course from 0 to 100, all those particles shoot from this base one to the second one. Let's pick our object again. Let's go back down to here, and let's add finally this teapot. Now, by the way, do you remember me saying that it doesn't matter the size of the polygons or anything about the shapes? It really doesn't, because it's not taking the object as the important constituent item, which basically means that they travel correctly from one shape to the next. What it's doing is looking at the amount of actual particles. If the particles are not the same, it will still say invalid target. So if you change the particle amount, we go, no, not having that. Got to have the same number of particles. Because they've got to have, each particle basically has an ID, and each ID is the same. If you've got 1,000 particles, you'll have an ID of 0 on one and an ID of 999 on the last one. Every single particle will pass that same number, which is why when you watch this, you'll see how they kind of like move oddly through each other. It's because particles have no mass, and therefore they can intersect, and then goes to their same relative places on the second one. And then if we do that on there, it now goes up across and to the teapot. So that now is doing exactly what that's doing at the minute. It's just going from 0 to 1 to 2 of the objects. The 0, 1, the 1, and that's doing it for 0 to 100. If I change the loops here to 4, what happens now is it goes up and to there, and then scoots back to 0 to 1. To 2 to 0, 1, 2. So if I just play this through and loop it through so you can see what it's doing. Until it gets to the end, where it ends on the third one. Number 2, as it were. By the way, just to explain, I'm going to the third one. I'm saying number 2. It's because particle IDs don't start at 1, they start at 0. It's like an array, I suppose. If you pick an array of numbers, and you pick 100 numbers, the values will always start at 0 and end at whatever the last number you picked was, at -1, because obviously you're not going from 1, you go from 0, so it's 0 to 99, it's 100 IDs. Hope that helps. So, what we've got here now is we've got this going all over the place, which feels very nice, and I like this, I'm happy with this, but obviously these things are getting in the way, I don't want to see them. So I'm going to pop open the toggles, and I'm going to turn on those two, like that, and I'm going to make it so I can't pick the icosphere, the icosphere, the super toroid, and the teapot. And then I'm also going to stop them from rendering, and I'm going to get rid of them in the viewport. So now all we can see is the, ooh, yeah. I'm going to change this back from loops to 1 and click on use timing. I mean, it grays out the loops things anyway, so that's fine. But what we are going to do now is we're going to look at what I said before, which is how we go about doing this ting. Well, you'll notice that at the moment, because we've gone from loops to that, we've now got this, and every single one of these has got system 1, because we're only using the one system, we've got time and duration. So the first one, I'm going to say it's going to start at, let's set it to start at 1. So there you go, there it is. And I'm going to have it there for 10. And I'm going to go to the next one, and I'm going to say the time that we start to get, the time it arrives at this one is 25. So now you'll watch it takes to 25, and then immediately pops back to the original one. So it'll be there for 10, and then from 10 to 15 frames, it will reach that shape. I'm going to say its duration there is going to be 25, so which means that then that stays in that shape for 25 frames. So at 50, which is where this one is, so that one will say that one will be 50, 50, and the duration is there is for 50 frames. What will happen is it'll go to there, and then it will pop at 50. It should pop at 50 to the teapot. Let's change that to 50, get that right. It's not popping. Maybe I have to do it at 51. Yeah, there you go. So it has to be the next frame. So 51, it's scooting directly across. So if I change that to 75, if I can actually get my fingers to work, and set that duration to 25. There you go. So it now goes to that one and then holds for 25 frames and then goes across to our teapot. So let's play this. We can, and it's not too bad. It's not too bad at all. Now, that fundamentally is how you use keyed. It goes from one shape to the next, and then you can dictate exactly where they are. So there you go, and of course it runs backwards and forwards because it's just moving them from one place to the next. Now, obviously, we have more freedom to do what we want here. You know, we can, for example, one of the things I've seen done is in this middle one that we've got here, the toroid, we could change the system here, because remember, these are just doing whatever these other particles are doing. So we can do stuff to these particles, and the other particles will follow to that shape before they go to the next one. By the way, very quickly, just saying about that one there, if I just turn these on again and make them visible, if I move this down, and then get this and then move this down, and then we play this back again, and then let's just turn these off again. What happens here is it now changes to the shape in whatever position the object is in. So you can even animate the object as well as the particle. So let's just pop them back to where they were. Let's get our teapot and make it visible. Push him back up there. Take the toroid, move that there. And in fact, I'm going to rotate that a little bit. A little bit. There we go. So now, so yeah, what we do is we, I'm going to turn off that. So we just have these. I'm going to turn back on the toroid, this middle one, and I'm going to go to its physics. And now remember, what we did with this physics is this is called a different name to that one, and a different name to the teapot, and those ones. Those are different. So this one, I can adjust this without messing with the other ones. That's why I made sure it was a different particle system. So the physics, I'm going to put it to Newtonian. So now it'll fall, and then it'll shoot back up, because it's following the particle system of our lovely torus. So what I'm going to do though, I'm going to go down here, because obviously I want it to be affected by physics and stuff, but I do not want it to be affected actually by all of these field weights. So I'm going to go to the field weights here, and I'm going to turn off gravity basically by setting it back to 0. So this will move and expand out like that, because it's got motion on its normals. Now I'm going to go here into the particle system, and let's open up the velocity and the normals, set that to 0. So when I play this back now, it'll go up to it and form it like it did before, because they're not moving. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, let's give them a bit of tangent and set that to 2.5, and let's randomize it a bit. Actually, we should get a little bit more sort of like spread. Yep. So what we can do here is, so that this now will sort of like it's spread out. So if I play this back again, watch this. So there you go, they spread out. In fact, you can see they're spreading out, that's fine. Let me just add a little bit of Brownian motion to this. Set that to 1, see what happens now. Just want to add a little bit of extra physicsy stuff into it. In fact, what I will do is I'm going to put a little bit of drag in there as well, just so they sort of like start to move and then slow out. They're not slowing down, are they? Oh no, they are. Let's try that again with a drag of 1. It doesn't seem, I don't feel as though it's dragging, do you? Let's set it to 1 on the damp as well. Ah, there we go. So let's set the drag to 0.5 and set the damp to 0.25. So it should start to move, but not all the way out. Oh, no. Let's reduce that. And I'm going now, very quickly, to apply to this one. I'm going to add some turbulence. So let's add a turbulence into the scene. And in theory, it should just pick it up. So if we go to our turbulence and let's set its strength to 20, so we try and get see visualizing. There we are. Whoa, that's it. Still got the drag, which is good. Let's increase the flow to about 4. So it feels a bit. Oh yeah, look at that, lovely. Right. So let's go back to our super toroid and turn all that off. And then if we just zoom in here a little bit, and we can go, it goes up and goes a little weird and like that. So what we can do is we can say, right, okay, well, I want this to move at 10 still, and then when it reaches 25, it can stay there until 75, and then we'll move it to the kettle. Teapot, kettle, talk about trouble. So yeah, let's go back here, and we'll open, and we've got here our actual original particle system on our cube. And let's move down here to our object timing. So at 1, let's leave it at 1, say there for 10 frames. And then let's have this one arrive here at 25, which makes 35, duration of 25, which takes it up to 70. So let's set that to 40, which gives us, let's just see if we can do this so it goes up. It stays with that for 40 frames. To 65. So I think we can make that 50. There we go. And then we can go into our last one, which is completely wrong now, and set that to 85. Set duration there to 10. So it now goes up, stays there, and then it goes from there to our teapot. And if we want to, we can do that on the spot, if we wanted to, rather than having the motion. So we get just shapes changing nicely. But that's, I mean, that's, I'm kind of happy with that. I'm going to turn off that. No, I'm not going to turn off that. What am I talking about? I'm going to go to this, and I'm going to turn off the emitter. We don't want to see the emitter. Just into the particles. And so in theory now, In theory now, I can turn off that, but that's going to get rid of the meta. It's not working. It's just doing everything I don't want. And so that's just following the shapes there. I like that. Right, let's just have a quick look at that. Let's just see how that looks. Just play this. It could almost be something reforming from one shape to another. To a teapot. Some sort of, not particle, more like, you know, like a, if you had them all on top of each other in the same spot, it'd be like, I'm taking a ball, I'm going to rechange it, I'm going to turn it into a teapot. And what you can do is obviously you can make your particles smaller. Now here's the thing, very quickly. Obviously this display is rendered and we can change these to points or circles and stuff. Or change it to a cross. So you get, whoa, pretty. You can change it to an axis, which is useful if you're doing lots and lots of rotations. But also, for some reason, looks kind of nicely weird there as well. I quite like that, actually. Following the normals. Oh, yes. Lovely. Let's change that back to rendered. And let's go back to our... We can put on children, but I'm not going to do that because that just means it'll fill up the screen with all sorts of things, which we talked about in the last one. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this to an object, and immediately it vanishes because there's no object for it. You can see there it's going, what's the object? What's the object? I could make it a teapot. I won't do it though because the teapot's turned off. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go and I'm going to add a mesh, and I'm going to add a diamond. No, I'll add a gem because I quite like gems. It doesn't everybody. And I'm going to go back to here and my object. Let's go back down to here and I'm going to go make that my gem. And you'll see we're down to size, so we have to change the size up a little bit, and let's do a little bit of a scale randomized to make it feel a bit better. And it starts off as a sphere and goes into this. And again, you'll see that we're kind of getting these, like the axes, we're getting the diamonds just rotating around in space like little spacey ships. So what we can do is if we go back to the system that holds and controls those ones, which is the ones on the super toroid, what we can do is we go into here and we turn on rotation and we can randomize that a bit and phase on right and set them to dynamic. And in theory now, if we play this, they should go all over the place. Oh, I love that. There you go. So there you go. It's kind of making itself into something else. In fact, I'm going to move those into the center of the screen. I'm going to do a little render. In fact, I'll do them up here. I'll put them up here. So let us go in, and I'm going to pick the teapot, which is at 5. I'm going to set that to exactly 5. Super toroid. I'm going to set that to 5. And the icosphere, I'm going to icosphere. Set that into the center. So what we do now is we get this. I like that. I like it. Ooh. Oh yeah. Whoa. I don't think they're quite in the same places though. Let's just make them visible so we can see them all. Let's get this teapot. Let's bring that down because obviously it needs to be there, not where it thinks it needs to be. And again, let's just turn those off. Play this back and we get keyed particles. And that's great. That's really, really, really great. You can do all sorts of lovely things, as you can see. And of course, you're not restricted to just having a fixed particle system. You can have it going from one animating one to another animating one. You can animate your objects. It'll all just flow and move beautifully with it. Obviously, what would be nice is that if you could actually, the way that it actually moves from one place to the next, from one object to the next, if that was able to be changed to a system that wasn't just linear. In fact, there may be a way, but I haven't actually looked into it. Potentially, there's something in the graph editor that generates itself when you do this. That would be sublime, because you could easily go, whoa, and then ease things in and out. And it would also make this a wonderful function for motion graphics if you could do that. Anyway, that's it for this one. Let me just leave this looping as I talk us out. Thank you so much for paying attention. No, thank you so much for spending your time with me. It's really, really lovely to do these. I keep on getting more people putting, you know, nice comments up, or even just any comment. Any comment's good, quite frankly. So, you know, keep those coming. And also, please subscribe. And also, tell people. I'm loving the fact that my numbers are going up. I mean, they're not going up dramatically. I'm not expecting anything. I ain't no PewDiePie. So there's no chance that I'm going to get, like, billions of people. But that's not the point. The point is I'm showing people how to use Blender. I'm getting a kick out of it, and hopefully you are as well. So listen, take care, guys. I'll speak to you all soon. And don't forget to subscribe. Bye.